All right. So thank you for your responses to that. I'll take a look over those. And I really do, especially the questions about what you would like to get out of this. I do want to, the reason I wanted to get that data now was so that I can try to build that in as we move forward through this class, because obviously I want this class to be as meaningful for you as possible. What I want to talk about next, and sort of the last big topic for the night, are the PLNs, and kind of talk a little bit about what a PLN is, what we're going to be doing in that realm for this course, and a little bit about sort of why it's there. So I'm going to take a little bit of a step back to the syllabus, to the 4 course projects, activities sort of areas. And when I was sort of structuring this class, I wanted to, because this is essentially sort of a technology overview course, right? In your programs, this is sort of the one area where you're dealing directly with technology. So it's kind of a little bit of a lot of different things. So I wanted to make sure that we covered topics that would address technology at several different levels. So at one level, we're going to be looking at how to address technology at a school-wide or even a district-wide level. And that's really what the technology implementation plan is about. Those, you're usually, at that point, you're looking at affecting a large portion of a student body or an entire student body, and how they access technology or what technology they have available. At sort of a slightly smaller scale, I wanted to also address technology in a classroom. And that's really what the Moodle project is about, because that is the way that technology often is implemented within a given classroom. So how do you organize the content? How do you create the content? So I want to provide assistance and build skills at that level. If you go down another level, I also want for us to be able to help each other within this class in terms of technology and understanding of technology. And that's what these forum activities address. They will give us a chance to continue conversations throughout the week that address certain topics. And those are going to be places where those of you with particular interests or abilities might be able to get your information out there and help other people learn about things. But then obviously I also want to grow you as an individual and your use of technology and understanding of technology. And that's where the PLNs are going to come in. Because PLNs, as the name implies, it's personalized learning network. This is really about sort of developing your own professional development days. Right? Rather than going in and sitting down in a PD day where you're told, for the next 4 hours, you're going to learn about understanding by design. And then 5 years later, nobody's talking about understanding by design anymore. PLNs are really about you really curating and creating your own network of content that is going to help you grow as an educator or as an education professional, or so on. So there's sort of a method to the madness of these, that at the individual level, at our class level, at your school class level, and at your school level, I'm trying to address technology kind of at that, in that whole spectrum. So with that as a bit of a framework, the actual PLN, and I was trying to come up with a place that had sort of the best information about this. What I ended up doing on our class Moodle, if you go to this page that says PLN information and resources, there is a ton of content on the internet related to PLNs. It is not strictly about education. These are used in business environments. They're used in all kinds of professional environments, but they have also become a big tool within the educational world. So all of the bulleted points here are not really specifically about PLNs. Some of them are, but most of them are more the kinds of things or resources that people will incorporate into their PLNs. And that really is going to be up to you and what your interests and what your needs are. And that's sort of the challenge of a PLN, is that you have to be the one to find the content that's going to address the things that you want to know about, rather than having an expert come in and tell you. So that can be a little bit tricky, but there's so much great content out there now. I mean, TED Talks has become a huge thing in a lot of school settings. There are TED Talks about just about every topic you could think of. Edutopia is another sort of centralized resource for a lot of education-based content, no matter what your topic is. So a lot of these are more just to give you an idea of the kinds of places you can go to find content and find things that you could add to your PLN. The first one, though, that says what is a PLN, is just sort of one that talks a little bit about what this actually is. This is actually, it's a whole 7-step thing you can go through to actually explore PLNs. They give assignments and all that. You don't have to go through all of that. But this was just a place that kind of gives a bit of an introduction. So what I thought might be useful before I talk about it would be to just have you go to this page. Stuff at the top of the page is more about how they're organizing this. But if you go down to a little ways to where it says, what is a PLN? And maybe just take a couple minutes and just kind of read through down to where they get to, eventually they'll get down to sort of building your own PLN. You can sort of stop there. You can look at the videos if you want, or you can look at those later. I think you can get the gist of what this is just by looking at the text on the page. So just take a couple minutes and just kind of scan through this, and then we'll discuss a little bit about what this means and how we are going to use them in here and what we're going to be doing with them specifically. There we go, right off the bat. Back in 1998, when the internet was in its infancy, I started teaching in 99. Take another couple minutes and at least try to sort of scan down through it or get the basic gist out of it. Was that a sneeze? Oh, I was going to say that was the daintiest sneeze I've ever heard. All right, so educate me. How would you describe a PLN? What did you get out of what you just read? How would you put it in your own words? Go for it.
Online network of connections.
Okay, network of connections.
You being in control of what you want to learn about.
Okay, that's the personalized part of it. What else do we want to add to that?
It reminds me of like a broader like LinkedIn. Like
Okay,
it has a professional component, but the whole personalized part, like you decide what you want to do kind of thing.
yep. Okay. Anything else?
Somewhere it mentioned like good teaching. We all know that good teaching doesn't happen in a vacuum. So just that level of connectedness, whether it's with peers or through other sources. And I just really like too, like number 8 on the reasons or the benefits, like globally connected students need globally connected teachers. Like, yeah, if we want to be able to relate to them and reach them where they are, then we have to be where they are.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, is this a new idea? No, right? Maybe the technology is new, but teachers have always worked with each other. I don't know a single teacher, well, I shouldn't say that. There probably are teachers out there, but almost every teacher I've known has said, steal anything I do. If you see something in my classroom that you like, use it, right? And that's just the way the education community works. We share, we learn from each other. I love in my own school when I get a chance, and unfortunately it's not as often as I'd like, to just go and walk into somebody else's classroom, right? Some topic I don't know anything about. And I learn so much just by watching another teacher interact with the same students I have, but interact with them on a different subject area, in a different setting, a different social grouping, whatever, with a different approach. So we've always done this, all right? And really, education isn't unique, but I think maybe more to a greater degree than maybe in some areas. We've always done this. So what's new is the technology component of it, right? So what is the technology given us that we couldn't do before? A couple of you have already mentioned a couple of things, but by adding, I mean, you've always been able to walk down the hall and talk to your fellow teacher. Throwing technology in the mix has changed that dynamic in what way? Yeah.
I mean, you communicate with people farther from you with kind of more niche classes or interests or styles
Sure.
that you might not see in a normal school.
Yeah. I mean, as a specials teacher, as a music teacher, I'm the only teacher in my school that teaches what I teach, right? And certainly there are other music teachers in the district, but for a recording technology class, I don't have anywhere else in the school I can go to and talk to about that things. But having technology available, I can now converse with teachers in all over the country, all over the world who do teach that topic. So it gives you a wider base to work from. What else? They mentioned some of the advantages that technology has given to this. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So could like PL and be a platform that teachers could and share ideas and tips and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean the what of what goes into a PLN can be almost anything. I mean, it can be Twitter feeds, it can be web pages, it can be apps, it can be message boards or chat boards or things like that. So the sort of what can go into it can be a wide range of things. For an individual, how they sort of track their PLN or organize it is kind of up to that individual. We're going to be using, this is what we're going to use our Wix for, what we're going to use our website for, because a website can be a good place to gather content together and present it, because you can put links in, you can comment on those links. And then because it's a network that should work both ways, by putting that content on a web page, other people can then link to you and find what you've curated. So having, it's not just keeping a folder on your computer of links, because then that's just you holding on to information. The network piece of it is that you want to structure what you've learned in a way where other people can then feed off of that as well. It's kind of like, I do genealogy, and it's kind of like what Ancestry.com has created. Like, I used to have all these folders and binders of all of my own personal genealogy, and really anything I wanted to learn, I had to go find myself. Now what Ancestry.com is all of those people like me have taken their binders and they have put them all out there. And now those binders have become interconnected, and I pull out a person and then it says, well, this looks like the same person, is it? And I say, yes, it is. And then that opens me up into a whole other network. So when you organize the content around whatever you're interested in and put it on a web page or something like that, that then becomes something you can share to other people. And if they're looking for information on the same topic that you're interested in, they can go, oh, look, this person has already put together all these web pages that relate to this, right? Does that answer your question? So yeah, the what of it is, it's usually something that is hosted online somewhere, so it is accessible. But within that, it can be videos, it can be blogs, it can be websites, it can be really just about anything, and anything that relates to whatever it is you're trying to learn about or learn more about. Right? So what are we going to do with this? I'm kind of focusing on this tonight. We're not going to spend a whole ton of time going super in depth on this, but this is going to just kind of be an ongoing project for you, to start to build one for yourself, to get a sense of what it's like to go out there and look for information about a topic that you have interest in. Your PLN does not have to relate to technology. We're going to use technology. That's going to be our interest in this class, is using the website to organize and curate. But the topic that you pick, or the topics you pick, can be whatever interests you. So if you're a history teacher, it can absolutely be something related to history or something related to really whatever. So what we are going to do, and this is a nice bridge because it takes us into homework, is part of what you're going to do for next week is get your PLN going. I'll back up and get to the first thing and some of the last things. So you're going to create a Wix website. Please understand, anywhere I say Wix website, if you already have a website or you're going to use some other platform, just use that. I would ask you, when you create it, put your basic information on the home page of that website. That's just good practice because people want to know who you are. So throw a picture up there, a little description of what you do and what your interests are. It doesn't have to be super in-depth. It doesn't have to be a whole CV or something like that, but just, here's who I am. It personalizes the learning. And then you're going to have an additional page on the website that's going to host your work for this class on your PLN. So on that additional page for this week, and we're going to do versions of this throughout the course, I want you to pick a topic of interest to you. Something maybe coming out of the Ed Leadership Program or Teacher Leadership Program, something that you've run across in your classroom or in educational practice. But I want it to be something that not everyone has agreed on. that there's like opposing views out there about this thing. You know, should we use cell phones in the classroom or should we not be using cell phones in the classroom? There are people that are very interested and very supportive of both of those viewpoints. So find something like that, something that interests you, something that's going to have opposite views out there. And I want you to find 2 web resources. And again, that could be a video, it could be a blog, it could be a website, it could be whatever. One that supports each of the opposing views. All right, does that make sense? So to use the cell phone thing, you'll go out and maybe there's a YouTube video of somebody who did a TED Talk about using phones in the classroom and what that can do for your students. And then there's maybe a website where somebody's talking about how detrimental phones are to the classroom. So you're going to just provide links on your web page to those 2 resources. And with each entry, add a sentence or 2 about the entry. So it could be about just describing what the content is. So when somebody clicks on the link, they kind of know where they're going. Maybe talk about the point of view or the information. Try not to pick a winner. The point of this particular exercise is not for you to make the decision, but to present the argument and to find resources about both sides. You can decide whatever you want on the topic, but the purpose of this is for you to kind of present the argument and let people see both sides and let yourself learn about both sides. Okay? So that's 1 or 2 of the 3 things that you're going to put on this page. How you organize the page is up to you. And we're going to be talking about graphic design, so that may give you some tips about what you want to do on the page graphically and organization-wise. But, you know, arrange it so that we can see clearly, here's the topic I want to explore, here's one viewpoint, here's the opposing viewpoint, here's a sentence or 2 about each of those viewpoints. So that's kind of one piece, and then you're going to have one more link. I want you to go to edweb.net, and if you don't know about that website, it is a webinar website. Webinars are basically just seminars that they put on the web. So they're instructional videos about all sorts of topics. EdWeb has hundreds, if not thousands, of webinars available on just about any topic you could imagine. Either something current, they archive past webinars. You do need to sign up with an account, but it's free, and then that gives you access. So just, and this doesn't have to relate to the first thing. This is kind of a separate item. So if there's a particular topic you want to learn more about, see if you can find a webinar of interest. You can actually engage with the webinar if you would like, but mainly for this, just find a link, and like you did with the others, just give a sentence or 2 on the page about what you've linked and sort of a little bit about what it's about. Okay? So does that make sense in terms of activity? So this is a building block of a PLN. You're creating a web resource where you are curating content that relates to topics of interest to you. So as you find these resources and as you view them, you are going to increase your own understandings about those topics. But you are also arranging them and making them available in a way where somebody else who has an interest in similar topics could come here and engage with the material as well. Okay? So this will be kind of our first little building block to our PLN, and then we'll be building on it as we go through the semester. Once you have it set up, the other thing I need you to do is to give me the link to your website. So here where it says submit the URL, if you go to that assignment page, it's set up as an assignment. I'm not going to put a grade on it, but this is just a way for you to submit something. So what you will do, I'm a teacher, so you won't see this, but you'll have the option of submitting the assignment. All the assignment has to be is just the URL of your website. Put your name in there too. I think it'll tell me who submitted it, but put your name along with it as well just to be safe. And then what I'm going to do is I'll create a page on our Moodle that has everybody's websites. So then you'll have the opportunity to go and see what other people are looking at too. So right there, now all of a sudden, we're already building a web of these resources making our own little network here of things that people are interested in here. So that's kind of the scope of that complete assignment for next week. And that's actually the biggest part of next week. So you're going to create the web page. You're going to add a PLN page onto that web page. You're going to do the opposing viewpoints piece of it. You're going to do the webinar piece of it, and then give me the address to the website so that I can look at it and post. Beyond that, for next week, if you didn't get a chance to register for any of the things we talked about tonight, the Moodle Cloud, Remind, I think everybody made it into Remind, the website, just do that over the course of the next week. Obviously, you're going to want to get that website set up sooner than later because you actually have to put something in it this week. And then the only other thing for this week is going to be our first forum. So I'm sure you've all done forum things in classes, right? So you know the basics of it. One of the things for me, want to sort of focus on with our forum activities in here, and I've taken enough graduate classes with forums as part of the homework too to know that this happens. It's always post a response and then respond to at least 2 other students. And usually what happens is that's as far as it goes, right? So the first few people in get a whole bunch of responses, and the person who gets the last one in gets maybe 1 response from somebody who didn't get their 2 responses done earlier. I really want to focus on this being the conversation. And a conversation is more than one person saying and one person saying something back. It goes beyond that. So I want to encourage, and the way I phrase this is, as this is meant to be a conversation, keep the posts going as long as you feel necessary to address the topic. So you, as the poster, are going to have a bit of a responsibility to read the posts that people have given you and try to respond to them as well. We don't need to go insane with it, but I want to kind of break the mold of this just being a kind of cookie cutter. I post, I do 2 posts, and then I don't go back and look at anything after that. I really want this to be conversations that are ongoing. So the topic for this week is I just want you to post a question. So your post is probably going to be pretty short. Something related to educational technology that you have wondered about or wanted to know more about. All right? So whatever that means to you. And so by posing a question, hopefully that's also going to sort of change the dynamic of the conversation. So if you notice that somebody's posted a question that you also are interested in, your response might be, I'm also interested in this. I would be interested in finding out blah, blah, blah. If it's something that you maybe know something about, then you can help to answer the question. Or if you know of a resource that somebody could go and look at or use, or something that you know another teacher in your school uses, or something like that. So the goal is going to be to kind of help all of these questions, if not get answered, at least help the people who pose the questions find some resources to help them answer their questions. All right? So that's the other piece of the homework this week is, so everybody will post a question. I do say engage at least 2 other students, so I do have that still in there. But I really want to focus then on what happens after those responses have happened. So you should keep checking in on your original question to see what people have said, and then see if there's things you can respond back to based off of what they said. And hopefully we can kind of keep that going a little bit more. Does that make sense? Yes, you can say no. I mean, it is 9:30 on a Thursday night. So that's really it, and I hope I'm not saying that in an ironic way. I hope that doesn't seem like too much stuff to do over the course of the week. Next week, the main focus is going to be on the Moodle projects. So make sure you definitely have Moodle Cloud set up by next week. I'm going to talk a little bit about Moodle itself, just to give you a bit of an idea of what kinds of things you can do in Moodle. But you can also feel free to poke around as well, especially on the documentation. So we're going to talk about that next week. And I will also get us the first steps on the technology implementation plan, so that you can start. The first thing there is you're just going to need to pick a technology that you're wanting to implement. So you're going to need to think a little bit about, again, ideally, if something you could actually implement in your school, then that's great. But if not, at least kind of imagine a scenario in your school or in your professional setting where you would want to be integrating technology into whatever's happening so that you can use that as the focus for your plan. It could be hardware, it could be software, it could be both. So we'll get that started next week as well. All right. So I've done a lot of talking tonight. I hope to not do as much talking as we move forward. But that seems to be the way. I mean, since we're all doing our first days of school, that always seems to be the first classes. I feel like I just sit there and talk at the students for 45 minutes, tell them where the bathrooms are and that they can't use their phones in class and all of that stuff. But yes, from here on out, we're going to get very hands-on and so on. And I'm going to be looking over your survey responses, see if there's things I can build into the class to address your individual interests. And we will be going from there. Any other questions, comments, concerns, criticisms? What else could I start with a C? Coffees. Yes. Okay, so I am a musician, and I am a theater person, and I am a teacher. And I have never in my life drunk a single cup of coffee. I don't know how. I don't really know why, but it's just where I just turned 50, and I've never had a single cup of coffee in my life. What's that? I don't know.
What about tea?
At times in my life, I've gone through periods where I'll drink tea, but it kind of comes and goes. Like, I'm not obsessed with it. Yeah. My daughter's become obsessed with the vanilla chai from Dunkin' Donuts.
Not that kind of chai.
Yeah, real chai tea. Yeah, I know the Dunkin' Donuts is not, they call it whatever they want to call it, but it doesn't mean anything. So, all right, so we're done for tonight. Maybe what I can do moving forward, since we can't really adjust the whole timing of the class, is, depending on how things work from week to week, is maybe kind of go without a break or maybe just a very brief break and then maybe get you guys out of here at least 10 or 15 minutes early, because that makes it seems better getting out at 9:30 than at 9:45. Somehow just that 15 minutes mentally makes a difference, because like 9:30 I'm like, I could be home by 10. That seems reasonable. But then if it's like, oh, I won't be home until like 10:30, then that seems late. So I don't know. But so thank you all. It was great to meet all of you. And we will see you in a week, same bat time, same bat channel, now that you all know where the room is. And hopefully have worked out all the parking issues. Oh, in terms of the computers, just go up to the Apple menu in the top left-hand corner and just say log out. You don't have to shut the computers down. They stay on all the time because they do updates and things like that. So just log out and just kind of tidy up your workstation before you go. Make sure you're taking everything with you. And I will see everybody in a week. Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure you've gotten it on CCSU's network, so as long as it can access the CCSU network, you should be totally fine. So, yes, you too. See you in a week, or if I run into you at Region 10, since it seems like half the class is all from Region 10.